Let's get corrupted. What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Joe with Meteoric Serpents coming back at you for another episode of the Colubrid Corruption Podcast. Guys, I apologize for the slight delay. My computer audio settings wanted to be weird with me, so I don't know. I switched to AirPods at some point, but my mic is working, which is good. So um, yeah, I got that squared away. Thanks to our special guest, who I will introduce in just a second. This was originally going to be a solo episode, as I had originally stated, but we have someone joining us tonight to help with the scoring and tier ranking. So hope you guys are ready for that. But to kind of start off, first thing here, the Colubrid Corruption Podcast is now brought to you guys by fulviusapparel.com. If you're looking for your latest herp-related apparel, shirts, hats, he's got mugs, a bunch of other accessories that have a bunch of reptile and herp designs on them. Justin Smith, who was on the roundtable last week, fulviusapparel.com. You can use code CC10 to get 10% off your order. That is exclusive to the Colubrid Corruption listeners. So go take advantage of that. Get yourself some Fulvius apparel. I'm rocking one right now. I know he just released this one recently. If you're watching, it's the Rinkofis Rhino shirt, which is cool. So yeah, I'm really excited to have Justin aboard. Obviously, we've become, I'd say, good reptile friends over the last year and a half. So excited to be repping Fulvius on the podcast here now and take advantage of that discount code. And, you using the discount code lets him know I sent you over, which is beneficial for both of us. So, yeah. Also, guys, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're chasing 1,200 subscribers now on YouTube, which is awesome. If it's your first time listening, especially, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And the likes also help too. Share it out with your friends. And then while you're doing that, you could also listen to the show on all the major audio podcasting platforms like Apple, Spotify, Google Play, things like that. If you are listening on there, make sure you give it a 5-star review, write something nice, and also share it with your friends. So, yeah. Let's see here. You could follow me on any of my social media channels and whatnot. It's pretty much at Meteoric Serpents everywhere you can look. Instagram, especially, that's where I'm most active. You could always feel free to send me a DM or do whatever. I'm also on Facebook, which is just kind of linked to my Instagram. You could see what's available that I post on Morph Market. And speaking of available, the first link in the description below does go to the Meteoric Serpents Patreon. That is, there's a lot of benefits to that. One, it's a little more behind the scenes of what goes on here at Meteoric Serpents. Two, exclusive access to, things. If I do pre-recorded podcasts, you get those early. Cool Discord group chat. Plus, it helps you support the show. And the other thing, because this is one of the first times, actually, no, we had some last year, but if you are part of the Patreon, you do get first dibs on anything I produce and at a discounted rate, which, I produced those Coxeye this year. I know I have people chomping at the bit to get the Coxeye. One is already reserved for Colubrid Fest. That's the first time they will be available. And if you want to make your reservation, you could do that by joining the Meteoric Serpents Patreon, and you could have that animal by Colubrid Fest time. Speaking of which, my Coxeye girl that gave me those 2 good babies, she is double clutching literally any day now. She's got the eggs in her. I know that for a fact. It's just a matter of when she lays, which should be soon because she had her pre-lay shed. I can see the eggs inside her. It's really cool with the Coxeye. They have like translucent bellies, and if you literally kind of hold them up, you could see the full pigment and shape of the egg inside them, which is quite interesting, actually. Unlike really anything else I've personally experienced, it with like Texas rats, you cannot see that. You can maybe see like the the indents at the very least, but you don't see like a full image of eggs. So yeah, got more on the way in terms of that. Had a ball python clutch this weekend, which was cool on the 4th of July, um, which is fun. Starting off that season, I know I'm expecting one more. I know this isn't the ball python show, but figure I give you guys an update of what's going on here. Um, yeah, let's see. What else am I missing? Also, guys, make sure you support a USARK Florida, the organizations that fight for our rights to keep our reptiles, you know, on the state, local, federal legislation wise. USARK is always fighting to protect our rights as reptile keepers, owners, breeders, whatever have you. So, yeah. And then let's see. You know what? I did not pick out hashtag Colubrid corruption of the week, which is silly on me. I'm gonna go drag that up right now. While I'm doing that, might as well remind you all that Colubrid Fest is happening September 12th to 14th. This is your weekly reminder. If you have not booked it, if you haven't booked your trip, you absolutely should. If you're thinking about vending, you absolutely should. I will be there with a table, even though my availability might be lacking. I'm coming to rep one way or another. So excited to be there. Excited to hang out with everyone. But yeah, Colubrid Fest 2025, September 12th to 14th at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So super, super stoked for that. Let's see. Let's pick out something here. Quickly pick out a snake for you all to enjoy this week. Yeah, let's pick this one. I haven't given this species much love. Oh, should probably stop sharing that. I haven't given this species much love in some time. Got a really nice looking Japanese rat snake from Chaz at More Than Morelia. He was on last week talking about Ganyosoma. So yeah, just a really good looking snake. Japanese rat snakes are super cool. They're honestly like North American Asian rat snakes. They're like the perfect crossover, I feel like. So yeah, and they are on this tier list tonight, so we're going to talk about them. With that said, and what's up to everyone in the chats? Appreciate you all being here. Yeah, everyone's turned up and ready. I think people are, I don't know, expecting the best or the worst for their respective species of, their favorite species of snakes. And people are excited to find out what I'm going to rank things. I told you guys, so one, this is a joint effort. We're going to talk about it with you guys in the chat. I have my special guest who I'm about to bring out. All factors are considered, everything possible. So we're talking, their ease of care in the hobby, their hobby popularity, general dispositions and things like that, feeding, how they are at that, size, overall size, their respective needs as a species. So there's a lot of things to consider as we make this list, and I put a lot of species on here. So there should be some fun debate. But yeah, with that said, I'm going to bring out our guest tonight. This was a last minute thing because we were talking earlier today. But I'd like to welcome Mr. Max of the Colubrid and Colubroid Radio team. Max, what's going on, man? How are you?
Not much, just enjoying a nice chill Sunday.
Nice. Hell yeah. For anyone who's unfamiliar with Max, Max is the mastermind behind all the behind the scenes stuff of CCR. I know you hear Zach and Clint's voice every week, but Max is the one who puts it all together. So if you enjoy their show, just know Max is putting in the work, and he should be respected and appreciated for that. So, and with that said, Max is also very I'm gonna say in tune with the Colubrid community. Part of what he does, he has a pretty big public Discord server that revolves around colubrids, and it's also like in partnered with the CCR Patreon as well. But it's also a public server, which the link is in the description below. But Max is like the admin runner of that.
Owner.
So yeah, owner. Um, so yeah, but welcome, Max. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a while since we talked, so
Yeah, definitely.
I think since Colubrid Fest last year.
Yeah, probably. Besides a couple, chats here and there over Discord, but yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so I know I have prepped you for this. I sent you most of the list, but I added a few snakes at the end. So who is ready in the chats to start getting into this? And we're not going to go in any particular order. You'll see the pictures in a certain order, but I say let's just kind of jump right into it. Because there's a lot. I put a lot of species on here, so this might go for some time.
And I added more, so.
Yeah. All right. Let's hope my screen doesn't crash out. And can we all see that? I think we can.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're doing the very basic, if you guys have ever watched any type of tier making YouTube video, we're going with the standard S, A, B, C, D tiers. There could have also been like an F if you wanted to. I don't think any Colubrid is truly an F. But yeah, we're gonna kind of just go through everything, and really, I want to hear both what the chat thinks, and I'm gonna give my takes, and then we'll kind of put a rank up. And once we're done with that, I'll probably download this and perhaps post it on social media to see what the public thinks. But yeah. All right.
Yeah, I agree with there being no F tier because I think every Colubrid out there has a person for it.
Absolutely. 100%. All right. Well, fantastic. Let's get started. Let's go very simple. On this, the third image here is a corn snake. Just started off real simple. I think this is a very good baseline to start off with. Corn snake. What do we think about corn snakes? I will go first. I think corn snakes are they're a staple to the hobby. I know a lot of people say the hobby wouldn't be where it is without ball pythons. I think the next vein under that is probably corn snakes. In terms of longevity, mutations, the amount of people it's brought into the hobby. Corn snakes are very, they're very often deemed like, one of the best starter snakes. I think there are better ones, but overall, and corns don't get too big. They generally have a good appetite as long as it's established by the breeder it's getting from. Yeah, and just everything overall, there's really nothing bad for me to say about corn snakes, besides the fact that they can hatch very small, and if the respective breeder does not get it established properly and sells it to someone, they could be dealing with a problem, which I don't think should tank a corn snake by any means. I'm just stating facts here.
I think that the only problem with corn snakes is that they're just that. They're corn snakes. And they've developed that sort of stigma over the years that corn snakes are your baseline. Yeah. And they're not very flashy. They're not very show off, but they're nearly a perfect pet for anybody who wants to try and get in.
Yeah, 100%.
and they're all across the color spectrum. So no matter what your eye is drawn to, there's probably a corn snake that fits.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Um, where do I think that puts us? Uh, I'm tilting between S and A on a corn.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think we should just start off hot and just put them straight into the S, because I think everything I said just undeniably makes them one of the best colubrids in the hobby overall.
Yeah. Fun little active snakes. Not much you can complain about.
Yeah, 100%. All right. So that's one down. We got like 20 something to go. Um, it probably would have been better if I could see all of our images. I think I could see them clear enough that I know what species I'm going between. Um, I'm going to go with another basic one. I have here, if you're looking at where my cursor is pointing, I have a California king snake. Um, another, what I would call another industry staple, another colubrid staple, is also regarded as a fantastic starter species, which I agree with to a point. Cow kings will piss and shit on you at every chance they get. They may try to eat your finger,
Yep.
but overall, their hunger, a cow king seems pretty bulletproof as a snake overall. And plus, cow kings, they're snake eaters. There's a reason king snakes are called king snakes. Like cow kings are dominant, and even in breeding, they will cannibalize. But if you put a small enough snake in their way, they will absolutely mess stuff up. So um, I don't know if that's a drawback of them or just like a good thing, but overall, and plus some things to also mention, there's a lot of mutations in cow kings, which I think people don't realize. Like I think like the natural appeal is cool that they're a black and white snake naturally, but there's also a lot of mutations there that a
I
newer
agree.
keeper may not know about. I actually really like cow kings. And I have just a pair here, but I enjoy them as snakes. They were one of the things that taught me how to breed reptiles, were cows and corn snakes, funny enough. So
Yeah, I think the morph side of them are majorly unexplored by the newer keeper coming in looking at them because they see the black and the white and they're entranced by that. And they're like, why on earth would you need to change that? That's already fantastic.
yeah.
And it's not just colors, it's patterns and there's
Hmm.
localities, and it gets so complex with king snakes. There's so many fantastic things you can do with California kings.
Absolutely.
The only
And
drawback I see with them is the bitiness you can sometimes get when it comes to kings.
yeah, yeah, agreed. Um, I was gonna say something else, and then I totally forgot. Um, shoot. Oh, the one thing I was gonna say, the market on them seems very slow, which I think is a drawback of them. Cow Kings, I feel like it, and you guys can again in the chat. I'm expecting full chat interaction on this, and I'm reading as we're talking. Um,
I see
Cow
we have.
Kings, I feel like fell off hard. Like I see their prices are just way down, and like that's coming from me. Like I do appreciate Cow Kings as a snake. It just seems like there's a lot of them out there, and not a lot of them are moving, and the prices are very low for the snakes as is. And it seems very hard that if you want to be a Cow King breeder to like set yourself apart in that world.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's another good point. It is hard. Despite them having morphs, there's not a ton. So it,
yeah,
it kind of becomes hard to make yourself unique and stand out without doing like line breeding projects or something, or localities.
Yeah. With all that said, I think Cal Kings are deserving of rank A.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So there you go. Nisarg, if you're watching, yes, Getchula got rank A. Maybe there's one that will get S. I don't know if that's true or not, but we shall see. To kind of continue with the basics. So I have here, and I did this to be easy because we could have really gone crazy, but I have in three separate categories: Texas rats, black rats, and gray rats. And with the black rats, I'm also throwing in there. I know I chose only a picture of a black rat, but I'm throwing yellows and Everglades in there just because of current taxonomy. Montrose don't kill me. But I'm doing that for simplicity's sake. So let's talk about black rats, or Allegheniensis, if we're gonna go with it that way. Yes, Eric. I've heard a couple people mention that, which about Cal Kings, which yeah, is interesting.
I was not aware of that. If that's true, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think because I brought this topic up a few times and people keep reminding me, and I keep forgetting every time I talk about it. But yeah, I believe that's the case, which kind of sucks for the species itself. Because again, I just think they're cool. But yeah, for anyone who's listening audio wise, Eric said in the chat, someone mentioned with the laws passed in Europe banning cow kings, it flooded our market, which has been mentioned in here a few times. So yeah.
I feel like I might have heard it when it was proposed, but not. I didn't know it got passed.
Gotcha.
Okay, but
Um,
black rats. I mean,
yeah,
you've seen so
black
many.
Everglades,
You've
yellows.
seen so many people make their name on black rats. You've had the Metazotics. You've had yourself, or no, your Texas rats. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm getting confused because I'm still old taxonomy.
it's all good.
They're old, new. I don't know what is what anymore. But you have the Metazotics. You have everybody who worked with him, Matt Most.
Yeah,
I, I don't remember who the third person was in that coalition, but I think there was a third person.
yeah. Um, no, but just when it comes to black rats, Everglades, yellows, as if we lump them all together, obviously the blacks is where we see the most amount of morphs. Um, there's a lot out there too, which I actually think is very cool. And I do think they're relatively untapped. I feel like a lot of people are working mostly the same things within black rat snakes, but I feel like there's more to do. There's more to be desired. And I know Clint's been working hard at that over the years, trying to, plug in new um, black rat stuff. Matt Most with him as well. Um,
I mean, there's
they
new
get to
discoveries as of last year at Colubrid
yeah,
Fest.
yeah, which I got to see with my own eyes.
Yeah.
If I looked correctly, because I think I looked at Clint's last newsletter he put out, that snake did breed this year, so I think he's
Oh,
expecting something from it. I think I'm not 100% sure. I'm just assuming by the label the clutch was given or something, but I don't know.
okay.
He can correct me on that. But yeah, overall, I think they're really cool. If we're gonna talk like natural ranges, I think the natural range from blacks to Everglades, like you get a lot of variability within the range. We see everything Chris Montross does. He works very heavily with that entire range of the species, which I think is really cool.
And they give you a little bit more size than something like a corn snake or a
Yeah,
common king.
yep,
So if you
definitely
want something a little bit beefier, that might be a good option.
bigger, but not unmanageable, which I think is uh, very good. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
they fall
hobby
right
wise.
right in that sweet like 6 foot spot.
Yep. definitely. Um, so yeah, and there's their appetite is fantastic. They just make great pets, active animals. I think without going on too much more of a tangent, I mean, I really think they're pretty awesome and could easily be given the S tier. Um, Again, we're talking blacks, yellows, Everglades rat snakes. Um,
I would agree. Yeah.
yeah. Now, let's do before we get to my favorites. Let's talk about the grays, the gray rats, Pantherophis, Spilotes. Um, is it's interesting because with the grays, there's I don't know, there's less. You don't see as much about them. You see a lot of the white oak gray rats,
Yeah.
which I think are cool in their own regard. Um, their range is arguably smaller than the others. They just don't seem to have a lot going on with them. And I think because of all that and no real mutations, um, I guess you kind of do if you're calling like Gulf hammock rats like grays. Uh, Whatever it may be. I'm not even sure, but there's really not much to get out of it. In terms of behaviors, all that stuff, you're getting everything along the lines of the black rats and stuff like that. But yeah, I think they're great. I just think they have a limiting factor in a matter of how they can look phenotypically.
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah, there's the
agree.
lemon grays. Forgot about those.
Yeah, I'm looking at them now on Morph Market. That was the first thing that popped up.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, there's just not a lot of movement in the market for them. Even the lemons are 125 piece.
yeah,
There's just not much you can do with them.
yeah,
If I'm understanding correctly, they're a little bit smaller than black rats. So if you like the rat snake look, but you don't want to fully commit to a 6 foot snake, maybe they're an option for you. But
hmm. Yeah, I guess that's true, Eric. I know a lot of people have issues when it comes to laws about native stuff.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and Chris said it in there as well. Yeah, those are all good points, honestly. Um, I know there's certain I've never had to deal with it, so I kind of just hear through others about some of the native laws, and that definitely does suck in those respective states. So yeah, but with all that said, I don't know. Like I want to give them an A, but I don't know if them being unpopular or kind of just limiting puts them into a B.
I was thinking B.
Yeah, I think. Oh,
I
not where
think
I
the
meant
white
to.
oaks are great, but I don't see a lot of popularity outside of that.
Yeah. All right. Now, here's where I'm getting. Here's where I had to put unbiased in the title because I knew I would get I knew I would get biased on this one. Um, Texas rat snakes. Now, you all have to hear my argument before anyone says anything. All right. So you may all think that they're assholes, and it may be true sometimes when they're babies, but when they are adults, I swear I do not get bit by my Texas rats. So I think that argument needs to really get thrown out the window with them. And maybe I shouldn't have even mentioned it because I don't think it's relevant. But Texas rat snakes, here's my elevator pitch. Texas rats now, while they don't have as many morphs as the black rats, I think they are way on the come up, um, just with the amount of variability. within the phenotypes. Um, you really it's almost hard to have two Texas rats that look exactly the same because as they age, they just go through such a dramatic color change. I see it within my own animals, and I really don't have two snakes that look the same. I can tell them all apart. Um, Now,
Yeah,
with that, the morphs are very cool within them. You know, we have the anery stuff, the scaleless. Um, you know, there's different forms of albinos, which I actually don't have a single strain of albino. Uh, Actually, I do. I have het stuff, but nothing visual. I don't have any visual albinos. The leucistics are cool. They're actually like I'm kind of done with leucistic. Um, I would prefer not producing leucistics if I don't have to, but they're so interconnected within the projects that it's probably going to be inevitable for me to have them and produce them. Um, but yeah, and just you know, I've told you guys a million times, and you see my pictures on Instagram. Just the different colors you could get on even normal animals. You know, normals, even if they're hets or whatever, is just so above and beyond what I think the average person believes a Texas rat snake can be. Um, Now, Texas rats can get to a beefy size. Their food response is amazing. Um, I love breeding them.
there
Um,
there are a lot of hiss and no bite.
yeah, I get a lot of tail rattles. I don't even get hisses. Everything just tail rattles. Once I scoop it up, it's fine, and I get it out of the enclosure. You know, um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
my you have brought me around on scaleless because I saw your scaleless for the first time at Colubrid Fest, and I literally stopped and stared.
yeah,
You were full on having a conversation with someone else, and it was like I had left the world and was focused on this snake. And despite my thoughts on scaleless, that was a crazy looking snake.
yeah,
So these things definitely have the look to punch with the best of them.
yeah. Yeah. Um, just in general, I mean, I really think uh they're underrated, and I think me talking highly of them is helping them out. We got a lot of Texas Rat supporters in the chat. I appreciate you all. So hell yeah, you guys are probably sick of me listing it all week, but I think I got to do it. They're going in S tier. I think they are an S tier colubrid.
I don't know, chat. Should I fight him on this one or?
I think either way, they at the very least get an A.
Yeah.
If I'm being totally honest, but John, but see, I think they do. I think morphs help out in the overall. If we're talking about general marketability, you know, what they have going for them and things like that, I think it's important to factor it, but I don't think it should be you know, it's not the limiting factor um in general. So
Because
yeah, I don't want to make it all about that, but it is a topic.
John, you can see the list. There's a lot of snakes on here that don't have any morphs whatsoever. Um, so that'll come down to just the snake itself in those cases.
Lisa, house rules are there are no rules. I'm just trying to be unbiased and relatively fair, but when it comes to Texas rats, I'm going to be biased. Um, I don't know. If I'm gonna really be fair, I will put them in A, even though I think they're deserving of S.
You can put them top of A or bottom of
This
S.
this is true. We could play that game. Fine, they will stay at the top of A.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. For anyone who's just joining, it is kind of my rules. We're kind of just talking these out and giving our honest um, opinion about where we think these snakes stand in all possible facets. You know, again, just to kind of run through some of the things where we're going: ease of care, popularity within the hobby, size, behaviors, all that stuff. I think it's all important things to consider um, when talking about these animals. And each animal is going to be different because, some of these things apply and some of them don't. But I think some things will outweigh others depending on the respective species. All right, fine. Other people are saying it. They're going at the end of S. We'll keep them at the end of S since you all agree. I agree with you too.
Hey, chat's in this too. So
Chat is winning on this one. All right, cool. Um, let's see. There's a lot of oh, do we go crazy and go? All right, so I have two different hogs in here. I have Western hogs and I have tricolor hogs. So let's get the popular one out of the way first. We got Western hognose snakes.
so we're putting this in D tier just to make Zach angry, right?
I Me personally, I would. Um, but I have to be fair here. Um, so just kind of running through the list. Hognoses, I think, are cool. They are cool snakes. They have taken over the face of the colubrid industry. A lot of pet people are loving hognoses. They are cute snakes. They stay small, and once again, the same with some of the others we talked about. And this will be another topic with some other species as well. As long as the breeder establishes the babies properly, they become absolute savages. Hog noses, it's the one thing I hear from my friends that have hogs. They are savages when it comes to food. However, they can start off as extremely picky eaters.
I mean, it was bad enough we had to have a talk about it at Colubrid Fest. So
Yeah, yeah,
from a hognose breeder's perspective. So
yeah, exactly.
I think
Um,
they are the beginner's pick for a species with a unique morphology. They have the nose flip, and that I think that's so enticing for beginners looking to get in. It's something that makes them unique, and people are just drawn to it.
yeah. Now, here's a debate. If Keller's still watching, if he didn't go to bed yet, um, this is where he's gonna start yelling at me in the chat. Uh, do rear-fanged species get a debilitated score because they are rear-fanged?
So I think that's a case by case basis. I think hog noses probably not,
Okay.
and as we get into some of these other things, maybe that comes into consideration.
Yeah.
But as someone who loves rear fang venomous, I would say for hog noses, let's not uh, knock them down a peg for that.
Okay. Fair enough. Um, let's see. I mean, the morphs are just crazy. Like Eric kind of said, the hogs really are the newest ball python in the
Yeah,
industry.
they have exploded recently.
They've just taken over. I do give props where props are due. Someone like, my good buddy Alvaro at Clover's Reptiles, like he's just killing it over there. And he's just like, as opposed to a lot of ball python breeders, and this may be the case with some hognose breeders as well. When it comes to getting species that are that popular, it makes me feel like people are in it for the money. But for someone who like really, really cares about his animals, like Alvaro is one of them. Um, I've had him on the show a couple times. I, you know, they're cool. I think they do make good pets. Um, I see now. I do sort of agree with this because they can be picky and they can be, you know, they can be iffy. Um, so I don't know. I'm having a tough time being like fair, like because they're popular, they should be high because that is like
Yeah.
because of how popular they are, that should weigh a lot. But I also think like they just don't stand against some of these other species. John is saying B tier. I could get behind that.
I would say B tier. If we go B tier, it has to be above the gray rats.
Okay.
Or I was going to say A tier below the king snakes. So
We'll
that's up.
go
No?
for now, we will go high B. This could change at the end. We can
We can
finalize this at
revisit.
the end. All right. That gets hogs out of the way. That's a big one. Let's see. Where do I
That gets
want to go
that gets
next?
the major hogs out of the way. You still have
It
track.
does. Yeah, and obviously, guys, I just want to make this clear. Obviously, I did not select every single species possible. I just wanted to get a decent spectrum of things that we can talk about. With that said, we can get the tricolor hogs out of the way since we're on the topic of hogs. Now, tricolors, from what I hear, are a little bit more easy to establish. They're a little bit more of savages, and they, you know how like Western hogs only go, they're probably double clutching. From what I've heard, tricolor hogs are just like insane breeders. They will
So
just keep going and keep going.
they do that. Now the problem with that is if you breed them constantly, they have achieved this stigma surrounding them that they only live like 5 years. And that is because people take advantage of that and they
Yeah,
breed them every opportunity they get and they're just pumping out babies year round. And these females have zero time to reset, rebuild body condition, and go again. So yeah, she may put out slugs in the meantime, but she's not producing full like fertile eggs. Um,
gotcha.
so if you aren't breeding them constantly, they go on to live just as long as any other snake, or maybe a little bit shorter, but they aren't this significantly short life period as other people seem to think. Or
Interesting.
Is John telling me I'm wrong?
No,
I
I
could be
think he's
wrong
saying
about
they have a short lifespan.
that. Okay.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Uh.
So if
I,
you're a breeder who comes into this with just gonna breed them every time she looks ready, that may affect your results on how we want to rank this.
yeah. I think they're cool snakes, like looks wise. Um. I don't really fully see their popularity within the hobby too much. I see a few here and there, a few people working with them, and so on. Um. I'm just not sure they encapsulate what makes like a fantastic hobby snake.
Yeah. And I will add that there are some morphs out there for these guys.
Oh, there are.
Yeah. There's a little bit of patterns, if I recall correctly. And I believe there is there a hypo? I don't remember. But there are morphs. They're not super common. I haven't seen them much in the past few years, so
Gotcha.
I definitely agree that they're nowhere close to a regular hognose.
Yeah. Um, yeah, with that said, where do we think they belong? I'm
Is
thinking
Is
Lower.
this the first C?
It might be.
I would say a low C to me, but there's only one. So, or this would be the first. So we would have to keep that in mind.
Okay. We got that. Now, okay. Some of these pictures I definitely can't see clearly, so I'm trying to differentiate between what I'm looking at.
Which one are you looking at?
There's a few. I just don't know which one to choose next. Let's see.
Let's see.
I'm not sure which one to go with.
Do you want to do Pituophis next?
Yeah, we could work on some Pituophis. The one my cursor is currently over, that one I know is a pine snake because that's a northern pine right there. So we can start with that one. I'm not sure which image is the bull or the gopher because just off the rip, and I could verify with a quick Google search. But hold on.
I'm trying to find where your cursor was. Was it next to the albino Nelsons?
Sorry. Hold on. Yeah, the one to the right of the Nelsons.
That's the pine.
Yeah, that's a pine.
The one next to that.
Okay. This is a bull snake, so let's do bulls. I got bulls.
Okay.
I'm hovering over right here. Bulls, I think, are cool. They got a lot going for them. They're very in your face type snakes. Could be a little attitudey. But they're a lot of bluff and no bite. That's one thing I would like to note. But
yeah. And you got to give credit where credit is due. I feel like the bull scene really exploded into like popularity because of people like Snake Discovery.
yeah,
I feel like their videos just covering all their breeders really brought these into the spotlight. And they have a lot of morphs. I don't know if I'd say a lot. They have morphs, but the localities are where this species kind of, or this family kind of shines.
yeah.
We did that episode with I think Mike Kuhn, and that was some of his stuff was crazy. I don't remember if that was all bulls though. Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
I'm
not 100% sure. I think he had pines.
Pines, I think, yeah.
Yeah. But no, with the bull snakes also, like if you're looking for like we're talking a beefy colubrid, like you can get a bull snake like big and beefy, which I think is cool. That said, I don't think their size, while they can get like definitely bigger than some rat snakes or around the size as, I don't think that's a debilitating factor. I think people can keep them more than the right way.
Yeah, we're still not at the point where it becomes like an inhibition to try and keep it in something like a rack.
Right.
Racks can still work.
Yeah. So, with all that said, and from what I know, I don't have a lot of experience with like bull snake babies, but like, I know they're good with their appetites.
Yeah, they come out feisty, so even if you can get them to bite out of defense, they'll typically take it from that.
Yeah. Yeah, and with that said, they're probably a bit easier to establish than some others. They're probably eating like fuzzies out of the egg. No?
Maybe.
Close to it.
I'm trying to think. Trying to
Eric,
think
can
of,
you confirm in the chat? Eric Noble serpents.
yeah. He's
Reading.
tough. He's saying Mike works with pines. That's it. Remembering that after the fact.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the
pits
the
are.
only other thing I'd say is that like I don't feel that bulls are holding down a ton of popularity. I know they have their place, but and maybe I'm just not in the right like groups and social circles and stuff. I
Yeah,
just don't see them get talked about a ton.
as I said, I feel like they had that little explosion during COVID where it was like, oh, everybody wants a snake discovery bull snake. But I think it has quieted down since then, and uh, this it's kind of a pit in my knowledge because ironically a pit. Um, I don't really have too much experience with them because I don't see them around very often.
Yeah,
Eric did say fuzzy ace out of the egg.
nice. That is pretty good. Um, I don't know. I feel like they are they're kind of feeling right down the middle for me.
Yeah,
I'm thinking B. The
yeah.
question is where in B.
I would say right behind hog noses. This is the
Okay.
sort of pick where makes me want to bump hog noses up.
To A.
Yeah,
I'm having a hard time.
because I'm looking at the disparity between a hognose and a bull snake, and I'm going, hognoses are on such a different level in terms of their place they hold in the hobby.
Yeah, they do hold a high place. I just don't think they're like I don't know. See, this is me being biased. Like I just don't think they are as cool of a snake. They just like not snaky to me. As weird as that may sound, I don't know if you guys agree with me in the chat. Like I'm not huge on hog noses, and I appreciate them. You know, like I said, like I have friends that work hog noses. They're not my cup of tea. You all know I'm a rat snake guy. Hogs just aren't my cup.
I can
So
understand that. I kind of feel the same way about sand boas. They're scaly sock puppets.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sandboas don't do much for me either, personally.
So
Um,
I think we're along the same like line of thinking there.
yeah. All right. All right. We'll keep that there for now. Maybe we can circle back to it. Um, while we're on Pituophis, I think we should do Gophers next, and then save the Pines for after, because I think there's more to talk about with the Pines.
I
Um,
agree.
the Gophers, I actually do think they're cool. You know, like I had Jason Nelson on recently. I know you guys did on CCR semi recently as well.
Yeah,
I could really appreciate the stuff he's putting out, like big time. He has some really cool animals. Just unfortunately, I don't think for whatever reason that they just aren't holding a candle to a lot of other species. And I don't know if it's because people aren't seeing them, enough people aren't working with them. I don't really know what it is, but they just don't seem to be hot on people's radars too much. I don't know.
I think that gophers are very kind of two-dimensional in that they have, in the words of the famous CCR quote, it's a brown snake. Or they have those like bright yellows that can sometimes get into reds. I and if that just isn't your type of thing, I can see where people can just kind of skip over these entirely.
Yeah.
But then I take one look at like these Applegate albinos and I'm like, whoa, that white really pops.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people blow them off before giving them a chance.
Agreed. That is probably the case. Um, I don't know. I really don't have much to say about gophers because I don't have much to contribute about them.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, Pituophis is just like a void in my knowledge of where.
yeah, a little bit with me as well.
Yeah, Eric's also saying I can't keep Applegate albinos on the table.
Makes sense. So with that, are we? I don't know. Is that a C?
Uh,
Do we give out our first D?
I don't think they're a D.
I wouldn't say so either.
They're small. They're like slightly smaller bull snakes, from my understanding. Is kind of how I would
Essentially,
describe them. Does that make them more keeper friendly, or does that make them?
I would say they're more keeper friendly. Yes. But I'd say like if you're thinking about putting them ahead of bulls, I just don't think they have the same kind of impact
Do we put them like?
above tricolors.
Yeah, that,
Sure,
I don't know whether that's low or high C or low B, but
we could do that for now.
yep.
All right. Um, sorry, I'm just reading the chats back.
I'm
Uh,
watching. I'm watching it as well.
Mike, I know you're very close with Jason, so I know you probably feel strongly about them. I'm just trying to be unbiased with everything besides Texas rats. Um, yeah, yeah. Both Mike and John, you are probably. I hear you both on those. All right, but without further delay, now let's talk about pine snakes. And I know I did not separate. This is a picture of a northern pine. I'm aware, but I'm including all pine snakes, which includes the Mexican pines, like Janai, on this list. I think pine snakes are actually doing quite well in the hobby. Though I think they're a little more like niche because a lot of pine snakes are just like locality type things. I think they appeal to almost all keepers who are interested in locality stuff.
Yes,
Um,
I think as soon as you get into the world of localities, pine snakes will appear, like in your purview.
yeah. Um, talking about uh again, like the Mexican pines gen, I think are just an incredible species, and I haven't had a lot of people on as of recent who work with the Janai directly. I did in like my early episodes. Um, I think they're fantastic. They're probably some of the best looking natural colubrids out there. Um, and I genuinely mean that, like straight out of the wild ones, not like you know, line bred type stuff like Janai are amazing. I think even like, your simple Ocean County Northern Pines are fantastic as well. Just the crisp, like black and white. Then you have things like the Black Pines and stuff like that. Um,
I will say I'm a sucker for grayscale, and I'm staring at a pair of ocean pines right now. And oh boy,
yeah. Yeah. Um, and plus, I think they do get more on the size of. I don't know if they don't quite get as girthy as bulls, but I think like lengthwise they can get up there. But
yeah,
overall, I think they really have their place, and I think they are fantastic for the niche, uh, like I like natural snakes and locality type stuff. And plus, like we mentioned that episode you guys did earlier with like the Louisiana pines. I know there's like the
Mhm.
um Kentucky pines as well, if I'm not mistaken. You guys know I'm not as good with my Pituophis stuff, but I do think all that stuff is interesting, and I think they're cool snakes.
Now, something we did bring up earlier with the rat snakes is that some pine snakes are heavily protected.
Yeah, that is
And
true.
that can be a barrier to entry for anybody who doesn't know that or isn't willing to dive into it.
Yep, that is true. Um, yeah, that is true. Where do they belong is the question. Um,
I want to sit right behind the bull snakes, if I'm being honest.
you think behind them?
I think that pine snakes never really had that mainstream media coverage, so they never got that outburst.
Yeah, I guess
I,
that is true.
I think they are still a niche market for locality keepers overall, but it's creeping up quickly on bull snakes and they will quickly overtake them.
All right, we'll leave that there for now. Oh boy, we got a lot of snakes to go, guys. Some of these others might be quicker. We'll see. Um, no, there's no way I forgot to put this one. Am I for real? I forgot to put a damn rhino on these pictures.
Well, I guess the Barons racer wins by default.
No, it does not. It absolutely does not. All right, guys, we're gonna take a couple second break so I could add
That's hilarious.
a rhino to this list because silly me. How did I do that?
Yeah, wasn't was that on your list? It was not. How did I miss that?
That's wild.
I think I just assumed it was on there.
I did as well. That's crazy. Uh, hold on. Sorry, guys. Okay. We're gonna save the rhinos for later.
Oh, I love that picture.
Yeah. Stop it, John. Stop it, Chris. You're all crazy. You guys are wild. All right. Let's see what we're gonna do next. Um,
Do we want to head to? Do we want to stay in North America, or do we want to head to another continent?
we can cross over and do some other stuff here and there. Um, let's see. I'm just trying to pick what I. We can get some stuff out of the way. I picked a file snake because I think it belonged on the list. I see people keeping them. Um, yeah. So file snakes,
File?
I think they're cool.
Yeah, they're very interesting. Um, I I don't know a ton about them. I haven't looked too deep into them, but in terms of look, they kind of have like that dragon snake feel. So if you
Yeah.
want your dragon snake at home, you just get a file snake and keep your box of dirt.
They have
But
yeah, they have super keeled scales. JKR, no, they are not elephant trunk snakes. File
no,
snakes are.
Two separate
Uh,
things.
yeah, in the group of lamprophets, they come from Africa. I'm not really sure where the elephant trunks are from. I'm not really familiar with the species much at all, to be completely honest. But the file snakes, I mean, they're interesting. I know we've both had, I've had April on my show. CCR did as well.
Yeah,
Debilitating factor with files is there's not a lot of people captive breeding. A lot of the stuff that comes in is wild caught. There's a lot of dealing with different parasites and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um,
And I think it's because of that that I don't know much about how they react to care. Like, I don't even
yeah,
know where to begin with them.
yeah.
uh, is this the first D?
It might be. I hope people don't get mad at that. But yeah, they might be a D tier.
I mean, they're cool, but I think that's all they have going for them.
Yeah, we're gonna drop that in there for now and move past it. But while we're on the topic of African snakes, if my two eyes can see it, I put African house snakes. Now, I know there are quite a few species within that group, but we are going to say generally African house snakes. Um, an interesting one for sure. I think they're current up and comers in the colubrid world. I've always had an appreciation for them. At the pet store job I worked, we had a black African house snake that I was really fond of. Um, I just thought their iridescence was super cool. Their behavior was they got like an interesting shaped head, and just the way they look, they stay relatively small. They're calm. Um,
I will say that I have gotten more people hooked on house snakes recently than I have ever before in my life. Like,
yeah,
people just seem to take one look at them and they're like, "Oh, I like that." It's and I just had somebody in my server get an Aurora house snake that they've been
okay,
wanting forever, and they've been ecstatic with it. It has been nothing but nonstop photos.
yeah.
So, I mean, they come in all different colors.
Chris, I'm sorry we had to do it to the files. And John, yeah, they probably have been. You're probably right. They've been up and coming for 20 years, just a very slow progression. But I feel like over the last few years, I've seen more and more people get into them. Um, the one plus I will give to the files, and this also goes to the African house snakes, is that if you know how to take care of a ball python, you can very easily take care of these snakes, because Chris is correct that captive bred files are like good, like they are fine snakes. It's just a matter of
Finding them.
uh, yeah. But the house snakes, now again, like I mentioned, we have a few species within those, and within that, we have some variability between natural looks. There's some morphs in
Mhm.
there. And like Eric is kind of saying, they are kind of like little pythons. Um, but I think they're cool. I've never dealt with babies. Are they any bit difficult, like getting established? Like, do they have any of that kind of factor? Or are they pretty like solid out the egg? Eric can contribute to this as well.
I haven't heard of many troubles. I've heard. I mean, you would have to know how to cut up a pinky, but
Yeah.
um,
Eric, how are they getting started?
I know they're pretty spread across genera. I think as well. It's not just like all species in one genera. There's a bunch of different.
Gotcha.
I'd be curious to hear how babies do. I can imagine they're super tiny.
Yeah, they do seem pretty small. Um, even while he's typing that out. A lot start on Frozen Thug with a few taking live. Cool. All right. Nice. Um, yeah, I don't know. They're I'm
Do
having
they?
trouble on where I want to put them.
I'm leaning toward A.
I am also. So I think that's where we go and we keep it there for now.
Okay.
If we're both saying it off rip, how snakes are going there.
That looks funny because
Um,
it looks like the photos were taken in the same spot.
I know.
I
All right. Let's see. All right, I want to knock this one out because it's one of my favorites. Let's do cockseye. Or sorry, I'm gonna say all porfs. They're all gonna fall in this category, but I
All
just happen to
members.
choose a picture of cockseye. Um, because the porfs are so similar. Obviously, for those who don't know, they're all subspecies of Cryptophis porphyracea. I'm just throwing them all in one category. Um, so Asian species stays relatively small. They are very easy to take care of.
Mhm.
Savages when it comes to food. Um, they're I'd actually say their only downside, and this isn't with the cockseye, it's with the other three, is that they are some colubrids that as adults are arguably worse looking than babies.
Okay. Yeah.
That, in my opinion, that might be their only downside.
I have seen adults dole out, so I know what you're talking about.
And
Uh,
it's all of them: Laticinctus, Volanti, and Pulcher. They all kind of mostly blend in into one color.
I will say, as another downside, is that I've seen beginner keepers try and get these and struggle with cold and humid and like managing that combination. Because hot and humid is easy, but like cool and humid can sometimes be a struggle to manage.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I can't say I've ever had like a problem with it. Now, the other thing is that, and I do want to say this about a lot of Asian species before we get into all of them, and this is just throwing it out there as a preface. I think mass media over the years has overstated the detriment and how high of a temperature they can tolerate. Like,
I
I
do. Yeah.
understand over 80 consistently is probably not a good idea, but even if you're keeping at like 78 and it does get down there into the mid to low 70s at nighttime with like regular temp drops, like these snakes do fine, and my personal collection is living proof of that, having kept them in Florida for multiple years on end. And now I have a little more control of my room, and I am keeping them more like mid 70s full time, but like these snakes are good. And I used to misconstrue like what you're saying about humidity with wet and humidity. When I first got my first one, I messed that up.
Yeah.
Um, I wish there was more out there, and obviously that's what like these podcasts are for, to like educate and tell people like it's not that hard to keep these things. Then like if you read a quick care guide, then it makes them out to be.
Yeah.
That
I,
said,
I
oh,
think with
sorry.
most I think with most snakes, your point about the heat being like needs to be less than we give it credit for. I think most snakes that can be applied to with what you read in care guides versus what they need in reality.
Yeah, yeah. And to what Eric is saying, I do agree. I think they make better display animals than handleable animals. My porfs do not like me, which is okay because I like them, and I don't have to handle them to get enjoyment out of them. I mostly honestly, I handle mine out of necessity, just like moving them to clean their, their tub or whatever it may be. But I tend to not really mess with mine too much. Um, all that said, colors are beautiful. You're not getting much variability out there. Obviously, you have a few different subspecies to choose from with the porfs. Uh, but like we kind of mentioned, their Asian habitat arguably makes them easier to keep than other snake species because you don't have to give them supplemental heat.
Yeah.
So, and because their appetite is so good, I think it does. I think they deserve to be in the higher ranks overall. Um, Perhaps not in S tier because they're not handleable like a lot, like Eric kind of said. Um, but I don't think there's anything else dragging them down to make them any less than an A.
I would agree. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right. Orphs are going here for now. Cool. And speaking about cooler species, I guess we'll knock mandarins out of the way. Now, mandarin rats, I think, are actually the species that probably actually needs a little more emphasis on temperature control because I do hear if you do get those a little too hot, you might mess them up. So they're ones that I think are a little more delicate. That said, mandarins are amazing animals. I admire them heavily. I have yet to keep them. I hope to do so eventually. Depending on the locale that you're getting, you could have anywhere from like a 3.5 foot to a 6 foot animal, which I think is cool that they vary that much.
Yeah.
There are a couple mutations with them as well, like mutations and line bred stuff. I think they're really cool, but they're needy care. I'd say they're a little more needy than some of the other Asians, and I think that could be debilitating to them. But natural beauty, they freaking got it.
Yeah. Those things, they shine the moment you see one. It's just like an attention grabber.
Yeah.
And that even like I know you said morphs, they have like an exanthic morph where it takes all the yellow away. Even those things are stunners because
Oh yeah.
It's just so stark, the black on white.
Yup. That's great. Um with all that said, where do they belong? Chat, I could use your help on this one.
Yeah.
I think they have to be behind Porfs,
I would
but
agree.
not far behind. Either the bottom of A or like IB.
I don't think. Are we putting them above hognoses though?
Personally, I would, but unbiased, I don't know.
I could see putting them above bulls. I don't know about hognoses.
All right, fine. We'll do that. Going right there, mandarins. All right.
I think Matt just listed a bunch today.
He listed a couple animals, yeah. All right. Let's see what's on here. All right, let's get okay. I want to kind of eliminate some of the I'm going to call them quicker ones. I feel like ones we don't have a lot to talk about. Not as much of a debate. I threw Eastern Kings on here, like generic Eastern Kings. Um, while there's really nothing wrong with them, so to speak, I mean, they're basically uglier California kings, if we're being honest.
It's like you
Um,
took the words out of my mouth. I was like, I
I'm
was thinking
sorry,
that
Clint.
exact. I was thinking that exact same thing and was gonna express it as a hot take, but apparently not. Okay, yeah. I was
I'm
gonna say
sorry.
they're
That's
like
what they are to me.
they're muddier California kings. I never was able to appreciate them.
You know, it's so crazy because I talk about so many rat snakes on here, but we have so many king snake listeners also. Um, it's really funny when these fights go on. I've been talking to, oh man, I got a message from Nisarg yelling at me about Getchula yesterday. Um,
Don't we all have that message from Nisarg yelling at us about
yeah,
Dracula?
yep.
I know there's quite a few in the CCR books, so
I think I have to put, and plus, okay, so like in terms of hobby stuff, I don't think people really care about Easterns all that much.
okay. If John's saying that Getchula are the only king that he has not bred, I think we're safe with our opinions.
I think I have to put them in C,
Okay,
but I'm gonna put them above. Uh, I'm gonna put them at the bottom of C.
that's fair. Yeah.
All right,
The
cool.
only thing I would say there is, do you favor ease of care and do you want to detract for venom?
Uh,
No? Okay.
I mean, yeah, I guess we can. We'll do that. It doesn't really make a difference to me at that point.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Now we're gonna do Nerodia. And
Oh boy.
this one could be hot. Chris is gonna listen to this tomorrow and he's gonna come kill me. Um, so I actually, so the only reason I have appreciation for Nerodia, I don't think I would if it weren't for Chris, because I don't really like them that much. They're not a snake for me, just personal, like personal appeal. Um, but they have their gives and their takes.
I 100% agree with that. They're not for me, but I see what Chris has done, and he's done some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. Uh, the amount of species now, again, I did Nerodia as a very general. We have a lot of species within that, obviously, and localities within that too. One of the main things we can say about them is they are generally not like, if you're gonna feed them rodents, they have to be hairless rodents as they get older. That said, it almost makes them easier because you could very easily go get fish from the grocery store, whatever, like fish products, and feed them that because they are kind of savages, and
Yeah,
they'll eat all that stuff, which makes their care actually inexpensive. Um, but yeah,
that's something I'm willing to give to them as bonus points, as well as when we eventually get to garter snakes.
yeah,
The fact that they'll take fish is something else. That's not something you can say for a lot of animals.
yeah. But hobby wise, unfortunately, like Eric is saying in there, if we're being truly unbiased, and yeah, they are just very niche animals. And to find the people that are really into them, I have a hard time putting them above a lot of the species on this list.
Yeah, I would agree.
Question is, where do they belong?
I'm looking at low B, maybe C. Like
Ah,
below, definitely below pines. I'm not looking at anything above that.
yeah. But even then, I think like gray rats have more appeal than a water snake, if we're being real.
Brown snake. Okay. Brown snake syndrome. Yeah. uh,
Um,
Beyond that, you get gophers, which are just, yeah, I would say between gophers and Eastern kings, maybe.
I'm leaving it there.
Okay.
Yes, yes, gray rats are staying above the water snake. I agreed with that one. I hear you on low B. I just don't. I just the hobby appeal, unfortunately, just isn't there so much so that I think it's hard for them to deserve higher. Again, I'm taking all things into consideration, um, and I appreciate Nerodia for what they are, and the people who love Nerodia, but I have a hard time putting them up there. Again, we're just trying to be completely unbiased here. All right. With all that said, wow, we still have a lot to go. How
Yes.
deep are we into this episode? Hour 27. All right. We're cooking.
Like I said, you want to hop right to garters because
We can do that.
they're Nerodia plus more.
Yeah, kind of. Um, yeah, garters. I mean, again, I lumped all garters together, which I know looks stupid, but I wasn't going to start separating species here. Garters, range throughout the entire U.S. Lots of different colors, phenotypes, sizes, and things like that.
They cohab well. One
They
of
cohab well, black
the
bearing
few.
snakes.
Yeah. Um, they have the fish benefit.
Yeah, yeah, their feeding routines is, not all rodents. You could get cheap food. Um, I,
They they're relatively common, and their morphs are becoming more expensive. I don't know if I want to say expansive, but the morphs that they have are excellent. Is that the word I want to use? They're quite drastic, is the effects they can have.
okay.
Um,
Um,
there's some protections in some places, which can kind of be meh, but
Tricky, but there's so many different species
yep.
of them. Um, I'm, hmm, where do
I'm,
garters belong?
I'm
I I'm considering slotting them between mandarins and bulls.
wow, really?
Do you think they should be higher or lower?
I was thinking higher.
You think they belong in A or in B?
I was going to say the back end of A.
Hmm. John says
because
B. What does the chat think? We need chat on this one.
because a picky hognose wants frogs or something of the like most of the time. Garters take fish, which you can buy at the supermarket.
Purple Church says C plus.
Okay, let me also say this. How many people's origin stories start with "I picked up a garter in my backyard"?
This is true. I just don't know if we can rank them higher than a hog.
That's fair. I see the conundrum there.
Like genuinely. Because if we have hogs at B, they are our actually true baseline right now. It's like, is this better than a hognose or not? So
Eric
we
says B minus or C plus.
that's why I was thinking of slotting them somewhere in the middle of B.
So you said in between mandarins and bull snakes.
That's why I originally said, but I am having a hard time putting them above bulls and pines.
I think I agree with your initial assessment. Now I'm willing to come down, and I think that would be a good spot because despite being able to keep multiple together, it's still less. A colony of garters is less of a space commitment than one bull snake.
All right. Got it. That's what we're doing for now, guys. All right. Settled. Um all right, let's do a Nelson's milk snake. Um these in my opinion got extremely popular because of like snake bites. Brian Barczyk he used to show off albino Nelsons all the time. I think they're cool, but that's about all Nelsons have going for them, in my personal opinion. Um, they stay relatively small, which is good for like a pet keeper, but overall, I just don't think they have that much interest or that much going for them. Um,
Milk snakes are hard because if you don't the deep dive into the intricacies of what makes each milk snake unique, they all kind of look the same.
yeah, there's that as well. And I specifically chose the picture of the albino because albino Nelsons are the most are distinct.
Yeah.
And just a note that I did not include a lot of milk snake species on here. I think I put 3. So, um,
There's certainly a lot out there.
if it isn't a black or an Andean, you can keep them. Well, one of those is on the list, Eric. So, yeah. But that said, I just don't think I think Nelson's may have had their time, but I don't think like hobby wise overall, like sure, like they make a good pet. They make a very
Yeah.
good pet.
I,
I just
Nothing
don't
from
think
their
they're
care detracts. It's
yeah.
just
I
is
just
the
don't
problem.
think they're doing much. One could argue I think water snakes are having more of an impact on the hobby right now than Nelson's milk snakes.
Yeah.
And I mean that sincerely. I'm actually, I kind of want to put these at the back of C. Maybe that's being harsh.
I
You think so, John? There's a niche group of milk snake keepers that would put them up high. Interesting.
I feel like the back of C is harsh. To put them below tricolors is not where my mind is. I agree with C. I just need to find the right spot for them. Maybe between the water snakes and the kings. Yeah.
Yep, got it. All right. While we're on milk snakes, before we do Hondurans, I guess let's do black milk snakes. I put these on the list. Quite a few of the guests on the show have raved about them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just genuinely enjoy the black milks, um, because they get to that like larger milk snake size, and then they turn all black as well. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
they. What can I say? It's a big, impressive. Yeah, nope, I'm not going to finish that sentence. Okay. Um, said the rest of that out in my head, and nope.
I've never really heard any deterrence about black milks. They seem pretty cool. You know, they start off as a tricolor animal and then they just darken with age.
Yeah,
Um, they
colors.
basically become a souped up Mexican black king, like a much
Yeah,
bigger one.
and they're garbage disposals.
Yes.
I don't know how much of a better argument can be made for these things.
Yeah. Um, Now the question of where do they belong on the list? The only, I think, deterring factor is, and actually, I can't even say this because I don't surf the milk snake sections on Morph Market all that much, so I don't really know how they're doing in the market. So
In terms of
I
like
need,
selling price,
yeah, like how many people are breeding them? How many people are actually interested in buying them? Are they more of a niche thing? That I genuinely don't know. Um, Purple Church. Only
there's
downside is you have to keep them cool or they won't breed well. So if you live somewhere a little hotter, have to watch that. Interesting.
18 of them on Wharf Market right now,
Hmm.
all at around the 300 price. So 300 to 400.
Okay. Um,
I'm not looking anywhere below. Do I want to say bull snakes? Yeah, maybe.
you said in front of.
Yeah, we have had so many guests come on so many podcasts and just rave about these things.
Yeah.
Like
All
I think CCR's had 3 episodes alone with black milks.
right. There it will stay. Now, Honduran milk snakes is our last milk snake that's on this list, and I saved it for last. Um, because in my opinion they deserve the highest score. Uh, and I'm a personal fan of Hondurans. I think they're really cool. You could do a lot of stuff with them. You know, we all know Kayla breeds some of the coolest Hondurans out there among other breeders that
I
we've,
mean, I'm,
also had on the shows here. Yeah.
I'm repping her.
Um, yeah, Hondurans are, they get to that impressive size milk snake. They're not like your dainty milk snake. Only thing is like their first year to year and a half, they could be relatively flighty, but besides that, they just turn into some impressive animals. Um, Appetite is fantastic on them. The morphs are really cool, and no, no
No, they're
way,
all.
no way a Hondo can be a C, because yeah, I know hobby Durans. Um, okay, so much energy again for the first like year and a half. If you've ever really like dealt with an adult Honduran, like they are as chill as can be. Um, with that said, I think they deserve higher than a hognose, which would put them A tier.
if
And
if we want to put them A tier,
They have to go above coxeye or porfs.
yeah.
Do they
Now,
go in front of house snakes? I would personally make that argument. I would say they deserve higher than a house snake.
see, it's like new kid on the block versus old man who's lived here for 20 years. Which one do we want to put higher at that point?
Yeah, everyone's saying they're popular. I think Hondurans deserve the spot over house snakes.
Okay.
They'll sit behind Cow King still.
I would agree.
All right, cool. Oh man, we still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Really? Did I just count really bad? Oh boy, we got a lot to go. All right.
Yeah.
Moving along. Let's see, who do we want to do? In honor of last week's episode, I'm just gonna get to our true Gonyosoma right here. So I have Oxycephalum and Jansenite as two separate entities.
Interesting. Okay.
They are now, while they're cool, there's a lot of wild caught stuff right now. There's not so much captive bred stock that's out there. I think they make better display snakes more than anything. There are arboreal colubrids. Just talking about all of them. At this current time, while I sort of think Jansenite are a bit cooler than Oxycephalum, I don't think they deserve a higher spot.
I would agree. Yeah.
Because right now, the Oxys are much easier to work with as of now. This could be subject to change. But
I think we just know more about them.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely that. So to kind of do these together, oof. I don't know. And plus, they could get to a decent size. You definitely need caging for these animals.
Yeah.
You know, babies in a rack, sure, but long term, you need enclosures. Jansen, I get fairly large and beefy, as can Oxys. Huh. Where do I want to put them?
Are Oxys what Kayla breeds?
Who?
Kayla?
Kayla has the green bush rats. Persino.
Persino, right. Okay. I was trying to think. I was like, that doesn't seem right, but it's in
which I have on here as well.
Okay, cool. Oxys, I would say.
But their colors are cool, variation with all that. Asian species, like, so care requirements aren't super high. I almost want to put Oxycephalum at the end of B.
That's exactly where I was looking.
And Jansenite probably somewhere in the middle of C.
Let's see. Maybe right behind a milk snake.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
There you go. Okay. I like that.
All right. That's two out of the way right there. Let's look at some kings because we haven't done a lot of kings. We did some lamps, but okay. I have a Leonis here. Just something that's heavily talked about on this show.
Leonis, my love.
Leonis, I think are super cool. Um, they're super cool animals. The variability is something that I don't quite think is replicated within any other colubrid species. Like, just
Trying to think. I don't think so. Not without there being like subspecies or something like that.
yeah, yeah, just within their own thing, they absolutely have the most variability. Everyone's on throw them in the S. Um,
I don't necessarily disagree with that.
yeah, their care isn't hard. They don't get
Tenders.
they don't get big. They're chill.
Yeah.
Um, they are easily accessible to the public in terms of purchasing because you got plenty of people breeding them. I almost have to agree with it. Um, and I'm going to be fair. They belong above Texas rats, but do they belong above black rats
Oh boy.
and Allegheniensis?
Hmm. Do they belong above black rats? I would say no, because not many beginners know about them. So maybe the name isn't out there as much.
All right. We are calling them S tier though. King
Yes,
snake
absolutely.
lovers, don't you worry. Don't you worry. I think they're deserving of it. Um, this right here, I believe, is a Mexican black king. Um,
Yeah.
the rise and fall of the Mexican black king snake, such an interesting story they've had in the hobby and their place in the market. They are an industry staple.
Hmm.
They are cool. They are chill, uh, easy to come by animals. Um, the one my qualm with an MBK is that that's it. It's a black snake, which I know is cool to some people, but for me as someone who loves variability and seeing different things, um I there's no way in hell I could put an MBK like above a Cal King. I just can't.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a niche right now, and I think their niche in the hobby is a kid sets their eye on an Eastern Indigo and realizes what a process that is and how big an indigo is, and they go, "Oh, let me get this snake, which is the same look with a quarter the trouble."
Really, John, a C? I don't think I could even do that to an MBK. I I don't think I can to a Mexican Black King. I it would be that would be a disservice to what their place in the hobby. I agree they should be in B somewhere. It's just a matter of where in B.
Are
Um,
they above gray rats?
probably.
And then I'm looking at pines and bulls going, where do they sit among those?
If we're gonna be real, it should go above or below garters.
Okay.
Or should it go above the Mandarin?
I honestly am okay with putting them below garters because that puts them right on par with black milks. And it is essentially at the end of the day a smaller black milk.
Yeah.
It is.
I think we'll keep it there for now. That's like true middle of the road, where I think they kind of should be. Yeah. All
John
right.
saying I remember them being $20 each. Oh, jeez.
Eric, you're probably right. You will sell them faster. I know a buddy who does as well. They make good pets. Let's see. I have a few more North American things. I guess we'll get knocked out.
Yep.
All right, so I have Desert Kings here. I wanted to add those to spice up the king snake drama. So we have Desert Kings. The alternate are coming, John. Don't worry. I have Desert Kings. I know a lot of people rave about them.
I am in the same boat as with Eastern Kings. They are
Yeah.
less clean Cali Kings.
But I think they look better. I think they're better than Easterns.
I think that's fair. But my mind always comes back to the comparison.
Now, so you think on par with the Easterns?
Yeah, I guess. It's rough. Desert Kings are not something I have ever took more than a glance at. So maybe I'm not the best person to be ranking.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I'm looking at this picture here. Like, this animal looks really cool, but that said, they just don't have the
Maybe chat can help us with this one.
hobby presence. They are a bit niche.
Correct, John. I have never seen a bright yellow Splendida.
So where to put it? It could go at like high C. I don't know.
I'm thinking dead center C. I'm thinking right
Okay,
above.
even John saying C is good. Okay, fair.
I'm thinking dead center of C between the milk and the
The Jansen eye.
Yeah.
All right, that's where they'll go. All right. We got Alterna.
Oh boy.
Alterna. Now, their ability to get started, I think, is certainly a factor with
Yeah.
them. Their variability is very cool. I think they are cool snakes. You nerds and their localities are a little crazy, but I guess I could appreciate you for it. Sorry, John.
I think the modern day gray band stands a much better chance than if we were doing this ranking 10 years ago
Probably.
because of the availability of feeders and scents and stuff like that.
Yeah. See, we have this chat interaction now. We were sitting at like 20 people earlier, and now we are getting dwindled down. So now it's a very niche chat, and now I'll probably have listeners who listen to this replay and the audio version, and they're going to be screaming the entire time they're listening. They are the most variable U.S. snake. Interesting. Yes, Eric. What rock does that Alterna come from?
What
Who
side of
knows?
the what side of the highway?
Um,
I think they are gorgeous snakes, and as I said, I am a sucker for grayscale. So,
yeah.
and I am a sucker for orange. So these snakes, in terms of looks, are just kind of everything I want.
So, hmm, do they? I think they deserve to be above. Like, I think the amount of raving they get and what they are as a species, I think they deserve A tier somewhere. I'm just not sure. I don't know. Right behind
Hmm.
Leonis. Everyone's agreeing
I
A
think I
somewhere.
think the back end of A, because
I am going to put them above the house snakes.
everything else in there. Yeah, okay.
What do we think about that, chat? I think that's fair. I think it's a fair spot to put them at. You think lower than the house snakes? I know you're partial to your houseies. I'm being honest with my porfs, and I'm a porf lover.
I'm hung up on the struggle to get started thing. Because even though I think it's gotten better, I think it's still an issue. That
I think we're fine there. All right. I also have okay. Our last two North American rat snakes. I have Bairdi and I have Subox.
Ooh,
Um,
I love both of these.
we'll do Baird's first. Um, they're gaining popularity right now for sure. I think a lot more people are getting into the Bairds because people are actually seeing how they turn as adults.
Yeah,
Um,
I think they are underrated currently,
yeah,
and as they get more popular, I think they have some pretty big potential. But I don't think they're there yet.
yeah. But with all things considered, their variability, all their stuff, North American rat snake size, looks, colors, um, Baird's Baird's deserve to be up there. Uh, it almost looks a little criminal how low gray rats got, but I think Baird should be on A.
I would agree. That's what I was thinking. Would we say in between? No, I'd say end of A maybe.
I would want to put them there as well. I think I'm gonna put them below Porfs with room for improvement. And I say that
Yeah,
with true like over the next few years, I think we'll see them rise in higher popularity.
I think they have. Yeah, with localities and morphs, there's a lot to be seen from them.
Yep. All right. And then we have Transpaco's rat snakes. Another pretty, I'll call them underrated colubrid. I feel like everyone who has them really raves about them and just really enjoys them. You know, cute little southwestern bug-eyed, naturally bug-eyed rat snake with some morphs in there.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they got their own book. um, they are another species like your Porphyraceae that don't necessarily need the massive amount of heat that we see a lot of these other species getting. A lot of people keep them too hot, and that's where they seem to lose it.
Yeah.
And those morphs are just gorgeous. You get into
Yeah.
the exanthics. And there's even localities, if I'm correct. So
Definitely. Hmm. I think, yeah, they do have issues with humidity,
how is it
and yeah, you
humidity
want
that
to
I'm thinking of? Yeah,
you can't keep them humid
that's right.
like at all. You'll kill them. Um,
Thank you, John.
so
That's good.
their sensitivity, I think that could be worked with. Just keep them dry. I don't think that's a debilitating factor. I'm almost feeling like they should go below bears,
I would agree. Yeah, I
still
feel
in
like
that
you're
A tier.
right up there.
Okay, that's what we're doing. All right. Um, let's get these couple out of the way. I have a couple rear fanged snakes. Well, let's start with falsies. Um, false water cobras. Cool snake. Uh, I have zero personal experience with them besides living vicariously through Zach every 2 weeks on CCR. Um, yeah, we're saving that for the end, Mike. Don't worry. Um,
I have had the experience of holding one, and it was very, very energetic.
yeah, that's the thing. They get big. They are high strung, intelligent snakes, huge appetite. Um, they are and because of their rear fangedness, their size,
Yeah,
those are debilitating factors. And I would say they're probably not for most keepers.
this is the point where rear fang definitely starts to come into play.
Yeah. Like,
Uh,
and if you get big good, you're gonna get effed up by a falsie.
yeah, I just saw some recent pictures. Oof. Can't unsee those things.
Yeah. Um, I don't. Yeah, I have a problem placing them anywhere really near the middle. I think they should be on the lower end.
I agree.
Where is the question?
Yeah. I due to due to all of these factors, do we want to put them right above the tricolors? That's like the highest I see them going.
I guess we can.
Just because of their prevalence in the hobby now, due to the last few years of explosion.
Yeah, sure. There's a falsie. Uh, next here we have Boega. And I'm just being general on Boega. Um, another one, Boega can mess you up, but they are an arboreal colubrid, which can also make them a little more limiting because you need like legit, you need to keep them in an arboreal style. That said, I think their natural beauty far surpasses what a falsie is if we're ranking them on like the same kind of accord.
Yeah.
Natural beauty is really cool. I mean, when I had Patrick Holmes on, just him showing off some of his like the dendrophilia, um, the melanotas, like they're all just super cool animals. But then again, their prevalence in the hobby not super high up there.
No. Yeah. I mean,
Little,
the prevalence they have is mainly dendros, and it's mainly melanota as the two main species. And then
yeah,
within dendros, it's one or two, actually, probably three or four subspecies you see
yeah,
out of the 8 that there are.
yeah. And then I know there's the cyanea have a bit of popularity as well.
Yeah,
Um,
there's cyanea, there's cynodon, the dog tooth, and then there's nigriceps, which is the blackhead. Those are the other
right.
3 most common.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I feel like it's hard to really put them. I, hmm. Does them being arboreal? Because I listened to that CCR short that they did. Does them being arboreal actually make them harder to deal with than a falsy, even though a falsy is so much of a heavier bodied animal?
Well, it depends because they can come in all different sizes. So
Yeah. I think we should just safely put Boega above falsies and call it a day.
I would agree. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's what we're doing. All right. Let's see. All right, let's do our dry marcon. I got and I know I left a couple off, but I got Eastern indigos, blacktails, and yellowtails.
You got the important ones.
Yeah, for the most part. Easterns, while everyone probably thinks they're the coolest, um, their thing is, most people just can't keep them
Yeah.
because of laws.
Yeah. Uh, that is the biggest inhibition to entry with these guys. It's
Yeah,
just pure legal standpoint. And for that reason, you don't see nearly anybody working with them. I think Black Pearl is the biggest name out there,
yeah.
and their wait lists are like what 10 years right now. So
I have no idea.
it's insane.
Yeah. Um, yeah, Mike, you could be right. Um, they might all be like they are very cool animals, and a couple of my close buddies. We're talking about Easterns right now. But I feel like they could all be ranked on kind of the same accord because of all those reasons. But Easterns would probably have to be ranked lower solely because of the fact that we can't keep them.
Yeah, if we're talking Eastern specifically, it is lower because of the legal aspect. If we're talking indigos in general, there's definitely more options, though I wouldn't say an abundance of options still.
Yeah. So where do we think Easterns here belong?
Oof. I
I don't really know. Yeah, I also think B. I think all three of them should be in B. It's just a matter of where.
mean, if we're going to put them all in B, I think indigos have to go at the end of B just due to the legal aspect. I mean,
All right, let's
they
just
are nearly impossible to get.
throw them there.
legal availability and price.
Yeah. All right, now we got blacktails versus yellowtails. Um, it's simply because purple church. I know, but we're taking all factors in there. Like they are, I like what Mike said here. Like Dramarchon, in terms of coolness, they do belong in S,
Absolutely.
but like as a species within the hobby, they're just they can't belong there.
Yeah.
Now blacktails versus yellowtails, in my personal opinion, just on looks, I think the yellowtails look cooler. It would be my choice, my personal choice, but that's just my opinion. Um, Other than that, I don't have much else to contribute besides what I know from my buddies, and that's that, you know, they're fantastic eaters. They're feeding them just a ton, super varied diet, which I think is awesome. You know, space is the other thing. You know, they grow, they turn into monsters. So you got to have the right space for them. And you know, the indigos are sorry, the cribos are animals you really have to be on top of care for.
Yeah,
You
they're
really can't slack.
they're messy snakes that will not tolerate small spaces, being locked up in small spaces with fecal matter, because they produce a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yellowtails have the advantage. New blood can still be imported much more easily.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look on Morph Market, there's still wild caught yellowtails that come in. Yeah. All right.
No, what
But
feels
where do they realistically belong? Now that I'm kind of looking at it, I almost feel like they should all be in succession at the end of B.
okay? Trying to look.
Just solely because of keeping wise. Um, I don't know which to put over the other.
Yeah, I have. I would just say beyond. Which one? Which one's smaller?
Mike
Probably.
said the blacks are smaller.
That's what I'm trying to look up right now. Okay, so blacktails are smaller.
All right.
I've had two
With
people.
that said, we're going to
My preference of look is blacktails as well. So I mean that's just personal preference, but
we're gonna do this, and we're gonna kind of call it a day. I think. I think just their overall care. We can't. I don't think we can put it much higher because of everything they need. And
yeah.
this is your average hobby snake. All right. Let's talk about our uh, Central South American
Rats.
arboreal snakes here. So we'll start with a tiger rat snake. Um, Really cool, in my opinion.
Yes.
Really, really cool. Their colors are pretty variable. They're not super like very much captive bred in the hobby right now. Um, they get big. They need an arboreal setup. Um,
Yeah.
they're just not worked with heavily enough right now. I think they're on a lot of people's radars just by looks, especially with people like what Stephen Cush and
Yeah.
Jason Hood are hatching right now. They're putting the good work in for uh, tiger rats, but
They
yeah,
have they have so many localities that give them different looks, and there are a few that have become lost to us because of like importation bans.
yep,
So we're slowly losing some of those phenotypes that we could have had because there's like two or three people who are really working with them.
yeah. Um, shoot. I don't know. I think they would be more popular if there were more captive bred out there.
I agree. I think
Uh, and
other than
because
Tinley, I've seen one at a show and it was Wild God.
okay, I almost want to put them right between the Crebo and Oxycephalon
That's fair. Yeah.
in B.
Actually, that might not be true. I may have seen these more often. I think about it, but it's always
Okay.
been in ones. It's never been full clutches.
Now we have Spilotes Sulfurious. Uh,
More rear-fanged.
yeah,
This is another one that makes me wary. Um, it, it is not often that you see an example like Roy's where it is just the friendliest snake on the planet Earth.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
you are
they
much more
also
like
get enormous,
they do.
and you need a ton of arboreal space. That said, I do think they're very cool. Um, but I don't think I could give it. It doesn't deserve to be in B. It's a C.
I think it goes with the rest of the venomous,
Okay.
and I think it goes. Do I want to say last for how few people are working with it? Yeah.
Last here or
Yeah.
behind tries.
No, out of the venomous.
Okay. All right. And then we have Phrynonax, bird eaters, the animals that hate me. Um, bird eaters, really cool. They're I'd still call them underrated, but I think people are starting to take a notice to them.
Yeah.
Um,
I think people like John Lohman are really starting to put those photos out of his that are starting to pick up attention.
yeah, yeah. Um, there's a lot of cool stuff in the works with them. That said, they are fast. They could be bitey as baby. Apparently, mine are from hell because John says his don't bite him. So I don't know what the deal with mine are. They hate me. Um, but I think the variability with phenotypes is something untapped. They're just not heavily worked with.
Yeah.
Um, but because of where they currently stand, we can't place them that high. Plus, they need relatively decent sized arboreal setups when they're older. they need that. Um, so they have some limiting factors there.
I want to put them above the tiger rats.
Um,
I don't know
yeah, we can.
because the Ganyasoma are just more prevalent, but
Yeah.
that seems like an apt spot for them.
All right. Cool. We're down to kind of our Asian species, and one other outlier. Um,
Mhm.
we got green bush rat snakes, Prasinum. They're cool. Don't need a lot of space for them. They stay relatively small. Um, yeah, there's not a lot of people working with them. I wish there were more. That's actually the reason I left Frenatum off. There's just not enough people working with them. I'm not sure, and for the sake of time and space, I just left them off. But Greenbush, I think they're cool. Um, but yeah, for me, they're kind of, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know what to think of them.
They they give you everything you want out of the North American green snakes, but they stay on mice and they're more available than what we can get from those. So they give you that look without having the poor availability.
Yeah. All
Mike
right.
is saying C or D.
I think, I think the green bush rats have room for improvement,
I agree.
but
I I
I
don't
do
see them being above or below Jensen though.
no. I kind of want to put them at the top end of C.
Do you see them being above Neredia?
Um,
I
that's
still see
tough.
Neredia being within the locality niche type thing. I think they could go right below Neredia.
All right, let's do that. All right, then we have. Let's do Russian rat snakes. A snake that I never hear a bad thing about. I've never kept them. Um, personally, they just don't interest me that much looks wise.
Looks
Uh,
wise, they are an eastern king snake and a rat snake's body.
but like I said, I've never heard anyone talk badly about a Russian rat.
Anybody who has a Russian rat loves it.
Yes. And people seem to like always be into them. They seem to be on that list of like beginner colubrids, interestingly. I don't know how they like sneakily made their way onto that list, but they seem to be like one of, when I just look at posts and stuff, they're one of like the highest uh wow, what's the word I was looking for? Um
Recommendations.
yes, thank you. Like highest recommended snakes. Um
I think that was another YouTuber who did that, and I forget who it is right
hmm,
now. But they certainly have the temperament, and they seem to be fine enough to be on a beginner list. They're
are
just
they S tier?
Everybody talks about their intelligence. Yeah, that is something I see a lot with them.
All right. Are we putting them? Do they chat? Are we putting them on S? Or are they high A? I don't know.
Ooh, that's hard.
Um, because I think they should be.
They say high A.
I'm saying right below Hondurans.
I can agree to that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, let's do our beauty rat snakes. So we're talking about Orthriophis, Tenaera, all those.
Yeah. There's
Um,
a lot here.
yeah, there's a lot. We have Chinese beauties, Taiwan's, blue beauties. Um,
Yeah.
that also includes Ridley eye
Yep.
and Grabowski eye.
Yeah.
When you factor all that in, Ridley eye are some of the most popular Asian rats. I feel like a lot of people keep them.
They're less seen than the main like four, the Taiwans, the Vietnamese, the Chinese.
You think so? I would venture to say I see more Ridley eye than like Chinese beauties.
At least that was it the way the last time I remember checking. I'm looking now and
Interesting.
I'm seeing a lot of Chinese babies.
Hmm. Um. Overall, I think the group of beauty snakes is cool. Now we have some things. Obviously we're talking about a wide range, and there's quite a few things. Yeah, attitude is a big factor on the beauties, especially blue beauties. They're known for having bad attitudes.
I think attitude, size, and like the arboreality of them, they like to
Yeah,
climb.
yeah,
So they need space.
yeah.
That's something they all kind of have in common. Even the smallest ones are still, what, 6 foot?
Probably.
And they're skinny and fast.
I'm having a hard time of where I would put beauty snakes. I feel like also with their ease of care and general popularity, I'm actually thinking about putting them right above mandarins,
I was
between mandarins and hogs,
That's where I was looking.
and that is settled.
I was looking right in that IP range. I didn't think you'd be willing to put them there. I know
Yeah,
you love your mandarins, so
I don't have any, so I can't speak on it, but yeah, that's about right. Chinese king rats, an interesting one. Or I'll just say king rats because technically they come from other places.
yes. Yep.
Um,
These are very popular among those who keep them, but they aren't kept by a ton of people.
I think they're cool as hell, but size and attitude is a very limiting factor on these.
Yeah.
and also price of entry, because right now the morphs are calling for high dollar to my knowledge.
Yeah, the morphs mainly came out of Europe, to my knowledge. So we're still kind of in that phase of trying to get them over here.
Yeah. Um.
But my server co-owner, the chick who runs it with me, she has a lot of king rats, and
Okay.
she loves them.
Yeah. They're cool. I've interacted when I went to John's place. I got to hold a few king rats. Like they were chill. Um. They're big though. They could definitely be intimidating. They're not for everyone.
Yeah,
Um. And yeah, they are called the stinking goddess for a reason.
yeah.
Um.
We call them stinkies for fun.
With that said, but I really think right now they're about to pop on um popularity. So I'm actually considering right now if they should go below at the bottom of B with a big potential for increase down the line.
Okay. Um, do you see them being below the dry mark?
At this current time, yes.
Interesting.
I think more people would get into a dry Marcon before a king rat.
Okay. I mean, I'm at the end of B with you. I'm just kind of on which side of dry mark end do we put them.
Yeah, I think this could quickly change in like literally a year or two at this point because I think they're about to pop.
Well, we just had someone show up and say, "Darn, I'm late again." Uh, you're lucky this thing is still going. So
Yeah, we're going a while here. Um, all right, Mullendorfi. This one John said before. This one is the last one on the list that deserves S tier. I just don't know if I could give them that because they have not taken off heavily in the hobby, and I could see why. Um, for I so Purple Church, I personally agree with you. I just think right now in the hobby, they don't.
Purple is friends with my server co-owner as well. So we're all friends on
Okay.
Discord. So I know why they're we're all in the same group.
I personally believe that Carinata are better than Drymarchon, but I'm trying to be unbiased. Um, Now Mullendorfi, I think, are fantastic, amazing snakes. Currently, I don't really know what it is, if it's people not willing to work with them or if price is like the barrier to entry, but just as a snake, it's one of the coolest rat snakes out there. Um,
Yeah,
everyone is saying S tier on Mollendorf. I think because of the crowd, we almost have to put them in there. I, I I'm almost finding it hard to solely because they're not worked with enough.
yeah. There was like an explosion of Moendorfi back in the day, back when like Matt started working with them and started CCR, and there
Hmm.
was like a revolution around them and like people wanting them, and then it died down. And I don't know what happened, but they kind of like fell off the face of the earth in terms of like what I've been hearing about them. But I know people are still working with them. Like I think the Zirkles have some, Matt has some probably.
Yeah. Um,
Mike asked the all important question: would you sell one to a 10-year-old?
Probably not. I don't think a 10-year-old has $1,000 either, though. Shoot, 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 shoot. As much as I would want to put them high, I'm not sure I can.
I'm looking dead center right now, if I'm being
Like
completely
middle
honest.
of B.
Yeah, like right below pine snakes and above great reds.
Interesting. Being objective, I think that might be the fairest spot we can do that. Okay. Now we have Japanese rat snakes. Um, I'm just gonna say right now, I think they deserve to be one spot ahead of Russian rats.
I disagree.
Cut and dry. Really?
I well, hold on. Where did we put Russian reds?
Right there. Oh, sorry.
Uh,
Below Hondos.
yeah. That might be fair. Okay. They have so much like Russian rats have albino, but Japanese rats have
And melanistic.
and melanistic. Yeah, I have just seen like this all black Japanese rat for the first time. A friend of mine just sent me a picture of this Japanese rat she got, and it looks like a
Really?
melanistic snake. It is insane.
Um, Now, while I know Russian rats, like I said before, no one's ever said a bad thing about them. I'd say Japanese rats are in exactly the same spot. I probably see more people talk about Russians a little bit more, but personally, I think for appeal to the hobbyist, like looks wise, I think the Japanese rat snake would take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say before I got distracted. Um, looks wise, they take it.
okay, so I'm gonna slot it right there, and yeah, that's it. Now, all right, I saved the best for last, and maybe I waited too long because a bunch of people have left, but I have left the most interesting toss up for the end. We have Baronai versus Rhinos. Which do we want to do first? So again, this is the other snake I'm going to be biased about. Rhinos are S tier, 1,000,000%. Their appeal is so strong. I think they, once the respective breeder who produces them gets them onto pinkies, they are just bulletproof, even though they are literal shoestrings. Um, they are bulletproof once they are on pinks. They grow nice and fast. They're cool, smaller arboreal snakes that are just extremely popular. Who doesn't love the little rhino horn that they have? Uh, they like water. You could do some cool stuff, with their caging and whatnot. Um, See, I understand why people say they're overrated, but I think they're very properly rated. I just think they're cool snakes. Um, they have great appetites. That's appeal is there like 1,000,000% in the hobby. Like that's something that's just never going away, and more people keep producing them. I think because more and more people want them. There probably aren't enough rhinos to go around. Um,
Yeah.
That said, I truly believe, and this is me being like talking about all these other snakes, like, and I keep the porfs, obviously. I think they go way above the porfs. If we're keeping them there. I even think they have more appeal than Japanese rat snakes. Um, honestly, the color spectrum they come through, green into bluish. Um, I think they're up there. Where they are, where they should be on this list in the S, I'm not 100% sure. Should they be right below corns, possibly, or I don't know. But I think they're S. Max, go ahead with what you want to say.
Okay. And we're not comparing yet. We're just talking rhinos.
I'm strictly talking rhinos.
Okay. They are fantastic animals. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If the the color variation is great, the the change from babies to adults is so neat to watch. And now there's like 2 species of them as well, which is super cool.
Yeah,
So
depends who you talk to.
yeah, I don't know. But as a
See,
lot
now,
of people,
Lisa, the thing about this, and sorry to interrupt, I'm going to quit because I do want to address this because this is technically a limiting factor, but this is something that has been like officially figured out. Like the process to get them started, like has been figured out, and it's simply by using fish and then
yeah,
eventually transitioning to pinkies. Talking rosy red minnows, um, like that's it, very cut and dry. If there wasn't that established thing and people were taking stabs at it, we might have a different story. But that is the universal way to get rhinos started, and people have been regularly establishing them for a while now. It's just a constant that we're dealing with in terms of establishing them. But once they're on pinks and eating strictly pinks, they are bulletproof.
yeah. The the nose thing gives them all the charm they need, and their temperament is just a bonus on top of it. I think even if they were as feisty as a Texas rat, they would still be popular as a display only animal, but they have the handleability that they do, and they, dare I say it, S tier.
Yeah.
I think they could probably go right above your beloved Texas rats. I don't know how you.
Yeah, I guess they should. I guess they should stay below Leonis, perhaps. All right, that's fair. I'm okay with that.
Now for Baron Eye, the troublesome cousin.
Barons. So, excuse my language. Keller said, and it's a good thing he's not here. He said, if I put them anywhere less than S, I'm gay. So that's you know, they're going less than S. Okay, Barons. So genuinely, you guys all know how I feel about this battle. I think rhinos are better. It is what it is. That said, I think Baron I are very cool. Like there's nothing I am taking away from them. I think they're awesome animals. The variability with the colors is something that's just so awesome in their species and all the different colors they come in. Um,
You have the
I, I
brown,
have
the
I have
greens, the
high
blues.
appreciation for them. Yeah, between greens, blues, browns, yellowish. There's been some like kind of blackish ones too, so I've heard. Um, and figuring out the how the genetics work on that has been like a mystery.
Yeah,
So there's more to explore with them. They are gaining popularity, but they also have the rear fang factor,
I agree.
which definitely can mess you up, as
Yeah,
seen first. It's been seen firsthand, not with me, but um, and they can also get big, but like your big females are like 7 to 8 foot.
And even then, they're not that big around. They're
No,
lanky.
yeah, but which I didn't realize either. Like big females get really big, especially compared to males. So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now that said, I do not think they deserve the C with the rest of the rear fangs.
I agree.
I think they belong in B. Where in B is the question. Um, I'm considering slotting them right below Mollendorfi and calling it a night.
I looked at that exact same spot. Yeah. Okay.
It's settled. Everyone, the Colubrid tier list is officially freaking complete. I'm downloading this image.
I think that is a very well balanced tier list.
Please let me download. Oh no. Okay. Just let me click on it. I'm probably sharing my screen still. Okay. We got it. All right. I am going to share this on Instagram tomorrow. This is going to be my Instagram post for the day, and I can't wait for everyone to yell at me for it. Yep.
Well, this was fun.
All right. Yeah, Max, this was fun. I appreciate you being on. This was a long episode. Jesus Christ.
As soon as you sent me that list, I was like, oh boy, I hope he knows what he's in for.
I guess I did it. Well, originally I was going solo, so I figured I would be going faster, and then I don't know, I got lost in it. So it is what it is. But thank you, Max. Max doesn't do social media a whole lot, but I have the link to the Discord he owns, as well as the CCR website, because he is an integral part of CCR. So if you don't listen to that and you listen to my podcast, you absolutely should. I've said it a million times. But yeah, Max, any final words before we say goodnight to the people?
Nah, if you enjoy Colubrid community, come check out the Discord. That's where I spend a lot of time. Enjoy helping out anybody who's either new or old. We have a lot of benefits for breeders and stuff, so come check it out if you get the chance.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that just about does it for the night. So for anyone who's still here, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit subscribe on the channel. Again, chasing 1,200 subscribers here. Make sure you follow me on social media, wherever you personally enjoy your social media, so you can stay up to date with what's going on with me and the podcast. Best way to also do that is by joining the Meteoric Serpents Patreon. First link in the description below. Gives you a little more behind the scenes access of myself and my collection. It's a way of supporting the show as well. So yeah, and special thank you once again to Fulvius Apparel for sponsoring Colubrid Corruption. This is the first episode of which that relationship is happening. So appreciate you, Justin. Use code CC10 for 10% off your order on your Fulvius Apparel order. Get your hats, shirts, whatever it may be, herp related. Definitely go check it out. I have quite a few shirts. Again, I'm wearing one tonight. So yeah. And I think that just about does it. So guys, this was episode number 71 of the Colubrid Corruption podcast. Hope you enjoyed this long tier list episode, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.